Live. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Facing Fears show. And I am delighted to have as my guest today the lovely Monica. And I met Monica last August, I think it was, at a networking event down in Ennis. I was speaking at it, and you were one of the first people in the room, and you just came up to me, and you were so full of energy and enthusiasm. And stayed connected with each other since, and which is wonderful. And I'm loving getting to know you. And I'm delighted to have you on as a guest today. And as is always the format, we are totally winging it, which Monica has just told me she is so allergic to. But that's how I roll.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have a chat. And you know what? Start the chat by telling us a little bit about yourself. I mean, surely you know enough about yourself that can't be a hard question.
Well, listen, first of all, thanks for having me. Yes, I did.
Right.
I met you in August, and you were the keynote speaker for the Women in Business Network. So I'm heavily involved in that network. And from a business point of view, I've been extremely blessed. And I always say it. A lot of my successes are down to the support that I get from the Women in Business Network and from the Enterprise Office. So about me, I would have started my first business in Ireland 20 years ago, and it would have been with the Enterprise Office in Longford. And then it evolved through time and whatnot. So I'm a sole trader. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the bookkeeper.ie, and I live in Ennis now, and I have been doing so for about 3 years now. I am originally from New York, which is where the accent comes from. And I've lived in Longford for about 20 years. And I'm a mom of two. And that's kind of like a little summary of who I am.
Well, look, I mean, from this, the idea behind this show really was, to talk about the things that make us feel uncomfortable, the things that challenge us, and I suppose really to help people recognize that they're just an illusion. Our fears they're just based on the thinking in our head. And I think the more we talk about that, the more we talk about how we overcame things that made us feel anxious or scared, the more other people see, oh, right, okay, I can do this too. So on that, tell me about fear and how it has shown up for you in your life.
Oh God, I've thought about it because I've watched your other shows, and to be fair and to be honest, I'm afraid a lot of the times. I'm afraid of like loads of different things, but the serious things that I've been afraid of, one of them is huge for me, and it also, when I don't follow my gut, and I choose it, it always goes wrong. And then if I follow my gut and I actually don't choose it, and it would be to do with vulnerability, and it would be to do with belonging, and being part of the gang and all that other kind of stuff. And when I do things that the only end result is going to be I'm going to be a part of the gang, 9 times out of 10, it just doesn't work. And if I do things because it feels good for me, then all of a sudden I have my own gang. They were there the whole time. Do you know that kind of way? But
I do.
I think, yeah, so it's really weird. And I thought about it a lot as well. I have an instant, I think it was, what was your man's name? The only guy that was on. He was on a couple of days ago, your show.
Eric was on with me.
Eric, yeah. And I really understood what he said, that for him, for me, it's very visceral and it's very physical. So my heart rate goes up, I get a bit of a sweat, I get a dry mouth. And unfortunately, one of the reasons I'd be worried about doing live stuff like this is I suffer from a syndrome called foot in mouth syndrome. So
I have throwing stones. I mean, they don't come much more blunt than me.
I have the innate ability to say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. Just it's incredible. So my first thing when a fear comes up is that I clench and I feel the adrenaline and I feel scared, physically scared. And then I tend to something erupts out of my mouth and it's generally the wrong thing, then I think about it, and I could come up with then a novel of the pros and the cons and why I felt like that. I'm doing a lot more of why did I say that and why did I feel that now than I've ever done. And I can bring it back to why that annoyed me or why that scared me. But the one thing I've done my entire life when I'm scared and when I'm been challenged and the situation was difficult is I went off and I got myself educated. So divorced, I was 22 years of age. I had it was really tough, and I went and I got my first degree. Then
Yeah.
the recession hit, and I went and did a FETAC level 6 in manual bookkeeping. Lots of bright lights went off because I'd been using lots of computers and automated systems. So I learned a lot more out of that, and computerized payroll because I knew it was going to be coming up.
Mm.
And didn't get a job. No one would hire me. And I turned around and I went, okay, I'm going to relaunch my business, the bookkeeper, and which was very difficult because all my clients were gone out of business. So then I went and I got my level 8 degree in accountancy. So anytime anything has happened in my life that was scary or challenging, or I didn't know which way to go, I just went to the experts. Even for my show in February, I called you, Tracy. Okay, Tracy,
Yeah.
can I have your notes?
You know,
What do
I
I do?
love
What about my slides?
I think, when you spoke about there at the beginning, um, questioning yourself and wanting to be in the gang and not trusting your gut,
Mm,
that is the main reason why so many people, they disconnect from themselves and they stop trusting their own decision making ability, and and start to live from the outside in. So I need to see how other people react to decide how I feel about what I'm saying about myself or what I'm thinking about myself. Whereas, and I was somebody who used to be so like that. I was constantly, because I'm a joker, I'm a messer, and I'm somebody who will crack a joke in sort of the most bizarre situations, but it's just, and then I'd be like, oh my God, did that person think that I meant this, or were they offended by that? And when we're second guessing our nature that comes so naturally to us, well, we're denying our true self, ultimately.
true, but then that's where you get confidence.
Yes.
I mean, and that's been talked about on your show too. And I don't know, there's situations in my life I've behaved more confident, and then there's other times when I'm just completely and utterly unsure. And that whole ability to have a remark come back, like it's funny. There's times when my daughter comes up with a phrase or a couple of sentences, and I'm like, oh, the next time I have an argument with somebody, I want her in an earpiece telling me what to say. And I have a colleague, Michael, and no matter what comes out of your mouth, he's got these one-liners which are incredible, and I don't have that. When I do it, it tends to be, it can be quite harsh. Gosh, it can. I read one of my texts that I sent in the wrong time, possibly to the wrong people, just recently, and I had to go back and apologize. But I went back and read it, and I said, I don't actually apologize for what I said. I apologize for how I said it. And I had to go back and think why I was so annoyed. What sparked? Why did that annoy me? And I had to figure it out for myself. But it took me 2 days, Tracy, and a 3 hour long email.
Sometimes it's just that we're having annoying thinking, and that's really
Yeah.
what it is. When I'm annoyed, I know it's because I'm having annoying thinking. It's not about what somebody else has said or done around me. It's the way I'm thinking about it. And that's what's annoying. I annoy the shit out of myself with my thinking.
Well, I've been trying to do this whole responding instead of reacting thing. And I started with LIFT, which is Leading
Mhm.
Ireland's
Yeah.
Future Together. And I just recently qualified as a facilitator. And I absolutely loved it because it
Yeah.
was eight
Great.
weeks. It's a
Great
round
initiative.
table. It's 45 minutes of self-awareness. And
Mm.
I don't know about you, but I've been a very quite unself-aware type of a person because I just seem to
Oh, I was
trundle along
utterly
and do
allergic.
it.
I was allergic to personal development. So trust me, the irony that I am now a coach is not lost on me because I would have been like, forget personal development. I don't need that. I'm fine. Where are you going?
Yeah,
And I
no, it's
know
I wish I
nonsense.
even had that attitude. It wasn't even, I didn't even know what self-development bloody well was. I'm just too, I've always been really, really concentrated on my business. It's been huge for me. I've been massively even for this, when this whole COVID thing broke out, um, and I had a tough year in 2019 business wise, and I struggled. I had a couple of tough clients. Had to let some of them go, thankfully. But I also struggled with trying to bring the company more online and more virtual and teach my clients to be more virtual. And then all of a sudden, this horrendous thing happened. This pandemic happened December, January. And the first thing I did in January was sign up for a course. So since this has started, I have completed a management development course with the Enterprise Office. I completed the leading to your business through COVID with the Enterprise Office. I've completed the trading online voucher course, did that too, and now I'm a qualified lift facilitator.
So
And by the time
you
it's over, I'm going to be a
you love
QuickBooks Pro
doing
advisor.
courses. What's like,
As soon as the shit hits the fan,
yeah,
as soon as the shit hits the fan, I knew when my numbers were down for 2019 and the decisions that I had made in my business made my life difficult to live. And why I made those decisions, I knew that I wasn't managing my own business. I'm really good at managing my clients' businesses. I'd run their numbers, I could do their KPIs, I could do their cash flows and their budgets. And we literally were able to foresee the entire first 12 weeks of COVID when we went into lockdown. My clients could, because of the numbers that I did for them. Could I do
yeah.
that for myself? No. And I wasn't doing it for myself. And I wasn't managing my business. And I wasn't in any way
Why
learning
do
things
you
that were
think
going to
that?
help
Why
me
do you
develop
think that was?
because I
Why
was
were
spending so much time
you?
running everybody else's business. I
Yeah.
ran myself into the ground. I worked harder last year and lost more money than I have in my entire professional career because I invested myself in the wrong ways. So I decided for 2020 that was not going to happen. And if I was going to invest myself, it would be in, I suppose, networks that work on a supportive basis. So there's the Women in Business Network, there's Enterprise, there's the Leo,
Mm.
the Enterprise offices, and now I'm actually a member of Network Ireland too.
So that is a common theme, with people who are in business. That they kind of their focus is so much outside of them, and in terms of helping other people, that they themselves get kind of, it's like nobody puts baby in the corner, and we kind of tend to shove ourselves in the corner a little bit.
Yes.
So what's that shit all about? I see
Um,
one of the things I do see coming up, and it's come up with myself as well, is a difficulty asking for help as well, and sometimes ignoring that there are areas that maybe we need some guidance in. Like sometimes you can see the bigger picture for somebody else, but it's not quite as easy to see the bigger picture for yourself.
Absolutely true. I concur. I've done it myself. I did not create that T-shirt, but I went to the same store you went to, and I bought it and I put it on. And I think that unfortunately, maybe not just for me, but for other people that might be in business, that for me, yes, I do love what I do. Okay,
Mm.
but the bottom line is that my job gives me my wage, which puts a roof over my head and a car under my arse, food in my fridge, and fuel in my shed. And these things are really, really important to me because there was a time in my life when I did not have a roof over my head. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all. And I work really hard so that that'll never, ever happen again. And that I create my own security within my business. Now, in order to do that, I require more clients and I require a bigger network. And the more clients I get, the more money I'll make, and then I'll be able to have my security. And in one particular case, and 6 months I spent doing this, um, if you do a job for a certain person and they are powerful, and you're in a powerful room and you impress the powerful person and you get that person, then you get the room. But unfortunately, while I was doing that and trying to get that job and trying to do it really well, and if I get that job, I'm going to get loads more jobs and then I'll have more money and then I'll have more security. And oh my God, absolutely did not happen. The absolute opposite happened. And it was because I was led by I was led by that vulnerability. If I impress
And I
this
think
person.
the, when you're in business, obviously anybody who is in business, you do want to have a level of success, because,
Yeah,
just the basics. But sometimes we lose sight of, it can be easy to get caught up in a sort of a spin of sales and marketing and who's your ideal client and who are you pitching to and da da da, that you kind of forget a little bit, and sort of start to lose a connection sometimes with, why am I doing this in the first place?
yeah,
It's really important to me. And I think that's part of the learning curve in terms of business as well, that sometimes you have to regroup and sort of go, that's not working for me. That's
yeah,
not, and it is that this is what everybody is telling you. You should do it this way and you have to do it this way. But that little instinctive voice inside your head is often trying to guide you in a different direction. But it's hard to quantify that instinctive voice. And you say to somebody else, well, I'm going with this like little whisper in my head. And they're like, yeah, whatever. That one doesn't know anything about business. But yet, I don't know about you, but for me, the more I listen to that, the more things just start to show up for me. Things just
100%.
materialize.
Yeah, and it's incredible when I see the red flag and I ignore it and I get that little, clinch in your stomach and you go, oh, and then I suppose nearly subconsciously I weigh the pros and the cons. So if I win this, I'll win big. So just ignore the voice, ignore the danger signs because you'll be able to overcome those danger signs. You're smart, you're a really good bookkeeper, so just do the numbers. The numbers don't lie. You can do a really good job. Overcome it. And I'm also not a quitter. So which is really hard because I'm not wearing my Nicorette
I'm,
patch today, but
I
I've been
am
trying to give up
so much
cigarettes since
better at
the
being a
first of the
quitter.
year.
I'm so much better at giving up things that just aren't working out. But I was like that. It was like, I've started this now, so I have to finish. Whereas it's like, you know what?
Right?
I'm not enjoying this anymore. So, nah, not doing it.
Yeah. Well, as I'm getting older and as I'm quantifying the decisions that I make, this the seasons of me doing things that I'm not enjoying and that don't feel good are shortening and shortening and shortening. And every time, and I mean every single, so I knew I made that decision in January that this had to change. So I hopped on a course to do the management development course. But not only that, it's nearly like, and I had the opportunity to do the balancing act, which was me being the getting out there and telling a room full of women who work for themselves that there's a better way of doing their books, there's a better way of managing their business. And I threw myself into that. And I really I went back to the clients that I had. I went back to my original network and I really poured myself into it. And I enjoyed every second of it. And the second I kind of started to close the door on the stuff that wasn't serving me, it's like doors opened, windows opened, walls fell down, and all of a sudden I was meeting people, and then everything went um, Zoom like,
Yeah.
and I obviously love that. I mean, that suits me down to the ground. Um, you have to
And I
understand the
do,
first time.
I think, when you make that decision to I don't like to use the word boundaries because often it comes with a feeling of having to do something to set down these rules and that it's quite harsh. I actually think it's a much more gentle, um, you can take a much more gentle approach to it. And the more that we stay true to ourselves and the more that we immerse ourselves in doing things that bring us joy and that we love and that make you feel good. And for me, it's, am I having fun? Well, if I'm having fun and you find like that the right people just come into your sphere and the people who aren't for you, they go like they go
Yeah.
quietly about their own business. So there never has to be, I need to sit down and set some ground rules here. It's really just about just follow your own path and stay in your own lane. And those that kind of aren't, they'll just go off about their own and just let them. I think that's the key, is that we often don't let them because we feel, oh, I need to keep one foot in here as well, or I need to keep slightly
Oh God, there is
attached
that,
to
right?
it.
And
Yeah.
don't burn any bridges.
Yeah.
Don't burn any bridges. And you
You
got.
don't have
And it was
to
very
burn
funny. There was a phrase. I went to the NS. That was the last networking event that I did, and it was the NS, the launch of the
frozen
NS
for a minute.
Book Festival. Or was I frozen as well, or just you?
I don't know. We're back now, I think,
Okay,
anyway.
we're back. But there was a phrase, and it was one of the authors that was there, Carla White, and she said, "Oh, was it love them, leave them, and there was a third thing, but it was basically, love them and leave them, and you just keep going." But my difficulty, and I don't know if it's the same as anybody else out there, but I've noticed other people, and I'd nearly put you in this category, that seem to have the innate ability to just walk their own path and to kind of be like, let things roll off them easier or off their shoulders, or that they're not as concerned with what people think of them and people's opinions of them. And
Well, I guess for me, that's learned, and it's still something that I do work on. But I heard a lovely analogy once about people's opinions, and it was from the coach Michael Neal, who I'm always talking about here. Everybody should know at this point. He talked about if you were to go out into a field at night and look up at the stars and start spouting off all your opinions. Well, in my opinion, this, and in my opinion, that, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the way it looks. Are the stars going to stop twinkling? Is the world going to stop turning? Is gravity going to reverse itself? No, because opinions are just an expression of a jumble of thought. And the only thing that causes us to be offended by it is the thinking that we do around it. So
yeah,
if somebody says something that I don't agree with, and now I start to nitpick on that, and I start thinking, well, now in my opinion, it should be this, that. It's annoying thinking. You're offending yourself with your thinking.
yes, but you and I might consciously know that. But the flip side, I suppose my vulnerability would be is that I still do care. And I do actually care what people think of me. And I know that I should really only care about the ones that I should care about. So my family, my friends, my awesome clients, and the ones that aren't awesome, just get rid of them, fire them, break up with them. But so I do, and I look at that, and I just, and I mean, do I want to mature and grow up and just be able to flip the bird off and go, I really don't care what you think? I don't know. Sometimes I really want to think that I could do that. But then the other part of me is like, you know what, part and parcel of who I am is the fact that I do actually care. And there's a fear to that. Like if I don't care what you think and I piss you off, then I lose you. So that's another thing that I've been looking into lately, is that we have, it came up a lot at the Ennis Book Festival, the launch of it, is that the vulnerabilities that we bring, especially as women, and I can't talk about the vulnerabilities of men because I'm not one. and I don't, I'm not going to become
Yeah,
one.
they have them.
But
Trust me, I know.
but I don't know what they are. So for me as a woman, the vulnerabilities would be start off right away as a sibling, and then as a daughter, and then as a friend, and as a sister, and but then it gets worse. My God, when you become a mom or wife, should I say? Well, I became a mom first, then a wife, and it's like all of this stuff, and it's nearly as if as I'm getting older, I'm learning to chuck the stuff out of the backpack. But all of those vulnerabilities, that not being a good enough mom, or not being a good enough daughter, or not being a good enough wife, whatever it is, that those are the vulnerabilities that formed who I am now. So I'm glad part of me isn't like a really hard bitch that doesn't really give a shit what anybody thinks. Do you know?
But I
But then
don't
there's a
think
part of me where I want to be that person sometimes.
I don't think that that's not really, I guess, the way that I would see it, in that
Right.
I don't care what people think. It's actually more, you come from a more loving place. It's that you do care about people, but the love starts for you first, and that you have enough love for yourself that you know that you're okay, that you are perfect exactly as you are, that you are whole, that you are thriving on the inside, that you are connected to innate intelligence, that you have that within you, and that other people might express something that is different to yours, but you don't feel offended by it, because you
Mm,
know that that's okay, and you're okay with them thinking that way. So, we can still love people. We don't all have to agree on the same things. And I guess for me, it's about, I recognize that thought is just thought. Yes, it can create our experience. I mean, our experience comes 100% from our thinking and 0% from our circumstances.
mm.
So it's really just, if I have a thought that's something, oh my God, you can't do that because whatever, I just know it's a thought, and I just don't take it as seriously as I used to.
Yeah. Well, I know I've done a lot of work over I mean, my whole life
People are
changed
thinking
in the
about us.
last.
They're not thinking about us.
What?
They're thinking we think people are thinking about us. They're not. They're thinking about themselves.
Oh, they're
Most people
not.
are thinking about
Everyone is.
themselves. Yeah.
Everyone is. No, I know I've come a seriously long way. Like I used to be the victim, and I used to relish in it. I mean, my theme song would have been, what about me? That song, what about me? It isn't fair, and I want my share. That used to be my theme song for years, and I feel I have done a tremendous. I mean, I used to be very negative, and I also noticed that when and I was feeling quite sorry for myself, and I would have a pity party. I didn't just have a pity party every now and again, I lived in it. But the tremendous amount of horrible negative things that happened to me in my life because of it were just horrendous. And the universe continued to kick the living crap out of me, going, change something, change something. And I did. Now, again, it was quite traumatic and all the rest of it. I came to Ennis under darkness with a van and possibly police escort and all that other kind of stuff. And I'd lost my home, and I'd been sleeping on my daughter's couch and stuff like that. And I literally had the opportunity, which not a lot of people get in life, to do a do over. And I was able to do over and create the life that I wanted. And again, that life changes every 12, it does change and it evolves. And when I get to a certain point and I've achieved that, then I want to move on. But one of the things that I at this, you'll probably laugh at this, right? But I kind of wanted to be Sandra Bullock, like in one of those movies where she's on the treadmill and she's got the headphone on and she's like running along and she's got this like virtual forest, and then she hops off and she gets into this great business suit and she walks to the office and people pay attention to her. And I really wanted to be her, and it was so funny because I have a treadmill and I
Okay.
did have a virtual thing on my laptop, and I became that person who got up at 6 in the morning and who went for a run, and then who got into her suit and went to work, and people were listening to me. And it took a long time. It took 4.5, maybe 5 years. I lost 10 sizes in clothes. If you see a picture of me now to what I was 5 years ago, I was clinically depressed. I was a size 26. I was on 14 tablets a day and I was incredibly miserable. So I have actually completely recreated my life and I'm now more of myself than I have been in a very, very long time. And I do get an awful lot more happiness than I did, but I still have that thing where I don't want to piss up too many people. I don't want them to leave me and never come back. It's a vulnerability that I have, and I've
But you're
really
only thinking because, like, you're thinking that you're going to piss them off. You're not actually pissing them off. You're just thinking about the fact. But, like, the likelihood is
God,
that you're not going to piss people off.
I have pissed people off. I have. I think we're going to need another session after this, Tracy. What do
Okay.
you think? So I've done an awful lot of work, but there's still, I just think, and the other thing is this, is that I'm a Buddhist, and now I haven't been practicing for a little while, but I would practice for years and years and years. And one of the things that we pointed out to us in one of our meetings was that our greatest weaknesses can become one of our greatest strengths. So,
Mm,
one of my greatest weaknesses was that vulnerability of needing and wanting to belong or wanting, and again it came from I've done a lot of work, I've had professional help and all the rest, traumatic childhood and everything else, but we won't get into that today, and when you see the movie it's going to be awesome. So yeah, so I had that vulnerability, that needing, that wanting to belong and wanted to be part of the gang. But the amazing thing is that it became my greatest strength. Now you've met me at networking events, and I by nature love people and I love networking and I love meeting them and I love hearing their stories. And I just find them absolutely fascinating. The different threads of reality that bring all these different people into the same room at the same time. And my weakness of wanting to belong turned itself into a fabulous strength where nobody in my company feels left out.
yeah.
So even though there's a few people in the room that in that little group might know each other better and might have their little private jokes and might have all that stuff going on, nobody in my company, in a network event, in a business room, in an office, nobody is ever made to feel left out in any way, shape, or form. And I like that about myself. And if that vulnerability caused me to have that strength, then I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
I'm
That,
grateful for it because I think one of the biggest and horriblest things I've seen in humanity is the ability, it is the absolute effort to leave somebody out. I find that to be the greatest form of bullying, that to isolate somebody and do it on purpose.
yeah.
Wow, that's harsh, man.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
harsh.
And, I have two kids who are kind of at that teenager age, and it's something that I am always so aware of. And did you invite so and so? And don't, and just, yeah,
Right?
it's the worst.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, it's the worst. And it was crazy. Like when my kids, I mean, you have to understand, when I came back from New York, I was extremely outside the box for my little village. I mean, there was 300 residents. I had a shaved head. I was dressed from head to toe in pleather, and I was divorced with two young children. Oh my God, I ticked all of the bold
Oh my
boxes.
God.
All of them. Oh God, yeah. Oh, and I was at the time I was Wiccan. So, I was practicing witch. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, great.
They needed pitchforks.
Oh, really and truly. So my son had never been invited to a birthday party in school and in national school his whole time throughout. And I was able to turn it around. I didn't bring the birthday parties home. I didn't invite loads of people to my house. I made all the cupcakes for all the kids in the school. And that's where we had their birthday parties. And afterwards, if they wanted to call up to the house and run around the field and play, fire away, knock ourselves out. It was
Hmm.
also the cheapest way to do a birthday party, to be quite frank. But it
Good
meant
thing.
that whoever was there in the room was included and they didn't miss out. So they didn't go to school the next day and find out that they all went to the ball tank, or they all went, on the cars and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that vulnerability, even though I still bring it with me, that it has allowed me also for it to be my greatest strength.
And I think
And I
that's,
think we all have that.
you know, like for a lot of people, networking is really, really hard. Like walking into a room and not knowing anybody and all of those insecurities and not knowing where do I start and how do I talk to somebody. And I'm an extrovert and I found it difficult when I started. So um, that being something that you can offer and bring, I think is beautiful. I think that's a beautiful thing that you're doing.
I wasn't always really good at it. You know, earlier on I mentioned that I do tend to study things that I don't know about. So I'd highly recommend a book called How to Influence People and Make Friends. So I
Okay.
have had to read that and I've had to take note. I'm a talker, um, and the ability to, again, doing this lift, this
Mm-hmm.
this lift program, which I love, and I'm going to roll it out to all of my clients and all of my women in business network. The listening to reply and the listening to understand and the whole idea behind listening, it's a muscle. This is what we learn as well on this program, and we have to use those muscles all the time. So becoming aware of that kind of stuff, reading the books, like even when I did that presentation in February, I had never done a presentation before. I spent my entire Christmas reading an Audible book that was about how Steve Jobs nailed presentations. And I studied it. Michael Mulqueen, he's How to Prepare for the Next Step. That book, How to Influence People. I don't come up with this stuff by myself. I
I,
get the book
I
and
think
TED Talk.
that's important, actually, Monica. We can learn shit. We're not. Some people are naturally good at certain things and not so good at other things. But you have the ability to learn shit if you just get out there and do it. And there are books there for a reason, or there are podcasts for a reason, because they help you to learn new skills. So when people say I can't do that because I wouldn't be able to get up and speak in front of people,
No, you can.
yeah,
Anyone can.
yeah,
Anyone can. And not only that, um, if part and parcel of the listening thing is also being open-minded, okay? Because at my worst times, and when I was the least productive I've ever been in my life, and I was the most sorry for myself, I was extremely close-minded. So I didn't really hear, even I might have been listening, but I didn't really hear what the message was. One of the things I took away from your talk back in August was um, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So going to all of these events and listening to other women or other people talk and watching your show now, Feeling Fears, there was so much stuff in that. I mean, the idea that somebody could physically, just like me, that when I get a fright or if I feel challenged or if I feel like there's going to be a confrontation, that's a fear for me. Um, and to know that somebody else felt that grip of anxiety and the dry mouth and the bit of a sweat, loads of other people go through so many things that we're going through. And if we're watching different shows like this, we're listening to a TED talk, we're listening to an Audible book, somebody out there has figured out how to do it better than I have. I can tell you that.
yeah.
So
You
it
are
might be advisable to listen to them.
in
Do you know?
all our batshit craziness, we are not unique. That is one thing I know for sure, is that we all think, oh God, nobody else will be like that. Oh, let me tell you, we're
Yeah.
all shit crazy, with the
And
way
I
that,
think the beauty of it is because it's all in different ways.
yes,
We're batshit crazy in different ways. So like someone is funnier or somebody, was able to have funnier quips and somebody else is a little bit more serious or whatever it might be. We all are very different, but God, trying to do this shit on your own, I'm
yeah,
of the belief that it's not possible. I mean, like even for the balancing act in February, I know I keep going back to it, but I called you. I said, what did you do? How were where did you get your notes? How did you do your slides? Fiona Brennan, she's another business coach. She sat with me. She gave me a session. I was at the time typing the script for the night into my laptop.
yeah.
Like,
I wasn't much help for you
oh
telling me
my God.
get up there and wing it. That
Yeah,
don't.
no, I nearly had a heart attack when you said it. So Fiona brought it back. She said, you have all the information. Concentrate on the
Yeah,
slides.
that's the
Marta
thing.
did my hair, my makeup, my profile photographs. Joanne Malloy she came and did my outfits. None of that show came together by itself. Susan
Yeah,
Humphreys from Market Edge, she did my marketing. You had Louise Boland, the accountant, came down from Limerick and answered all the really tough accountancy questions. All of it. And then all of my friends in the Women in Business Network, there's Annabella and Joanne and everybody else, they were liking and sharing the crap out of me for like 6 weeks. None of it happened by myself. And God bless Devessa, my daughter. She would have been able to get up and do that talk without me. And she's in HR. She's not an accountant. But she had to listen to it so many times. My friend Elaine turned around and made all the slides with the same font, the same time, the same size, and centered everything the way it was meant to be. I didn't do that by myself, and I don't think we do anything well in life by ourselves.
no, we don't. And it's funny because I can be a little bit of a lone wolf, and that has been to my detriment. Um, yeah. So for me, a big learning curve over the last few years was in getting over that, getting over myself, and being better at asking for help and reaching out. And I made life really hard for myself, with this need to be, I'm fine, I'll do it myself. I'm independent. I'm a warrior. I got this.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
but I really did. I did make life very hard for myself, and it didn't need to be. But hey, that's just part of the learning curve, isn't it?
Oh, well, I've learned to ask. I can tell you that I was in Stack training, one of my finest clients, and I love working with them. I've been with them for over 3 years. I got their training room and their big screen and all of the slides and timers, and four of them sat in front of me with notebooks and took notes on all the things because they're all qualified trainers. They've done this. They've stood up
Yeah.
in front of a screen. I walked across the screen 7 times. There was no need to do that. But I knew it was something that I couldn't do myself with the amount of information that I had and the experience that I had and the time that I had. I only found out December 19th that I was going to be doing this show on February 4th. My entire Christmas and New Year's was spent studying to do it. But I just
And
found, and that's one of
yeah,
the things.
see, the next time it'll be easier, and then the next time after that it'll be easier. So, it's just sometimes you just have to jump in to the cold water and just give it a go. And sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't work out, but you don't know until you get in the game and give it a go. And I think
I
that's
did
that.
today. I didn't have a
You
script
did
today.
today. You didn't. Well,
And
that's
you didn't
you know
provide
what?
me any questions or any prep work at all. The
No,
only prep work I got was Devessa helped me with the lighting and the
and
makeup and
see,
stuff.
we still had enough to talk about. So,
Yeah, I
Monica,
still
thank
had
you
a great
so much.
time.
Thank you so much for coming on. I am going to put all your contact details in the comments box. If anybody is looking for a bookkeeper who knows her shit, Monica is your woman. And
Thanks,
thank
Tracy.
you, everybody, for popping on to have a look and for staying with us. Really appreciate it. If you want to have a look at my new online program that's coming up, I'm starting it in 2 weeks. It's called Be You Bravely. And it really is like what we were talking about earlier on. It's helping people to live more authentically by them. Just be you, exactly who you are. And it's gives you the foundation to create whatever it is you want in life and whatever it is that makes you feel successful. So the details for that are on my website and on my Facebook page. And stay tuned in. We will have more guests coming down the line for Facing Fears, winging it, seeing what comes up, nothing prepared. Monica, thank you again for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a million for having me.